Well, let's start with Australia versus France, which I think every person who watched this, football fan or not, was just blown away by this game. And
Mhm.
we can talk about it coming down into the dying moments. 7-6 on penalties. Australia won. There were 20 penalty kicks taken in total, which is the longest penalty shootout in either men's and women's football history, which is insane, and World Cup history. So French keeper subbed in for penalty kicks. When we saw that happen, I was like, you don't typically see this
Mm-mm.
in a shootout, but I was like, okay, I'm here for the storyline. I'm here for the drama. Maybe this goalkeeper is insanely good,
Mhm.
at penalties, but still, again, not something you typically see. There were 10 rounds of penalties, 4 saves, 3 posts hit, and a retaken penalty. Like, when you talk about drama of this
Mhm.
game, start to finish, lots on the line. It's a quarterfinal. Both teams obviously want to advance. The Matildas are in front of their home fans, and you add the drama of these penalty kicks, which obviously there's already an immense amount of pressure in penalties, but like you stir in that drama and you're like, whoa, what did we just watch?
It is headlines to the maximum, I think. And of course, it's so sad to go out on penalties. So sad to see France leave the tournament in this way after such, like you said, Caroline, a dramatic round of penalties. But wow, big ups to the Matildas. What an atmosphere that would have been in the stadium watching their home crowd advance. But yeah, I mean, it's true, guys. Like you can't make this up at all. And to be honest, there was a little moment in time when France subbed in the goalkeeper that I thought, oh my gosh, like this is the real deal. France, they have a goalkeeper who's been probably preparing for this moment to come. She's been probably preparing penalty kicks for the last couple years of her life. So I thought, wow, the Matildas, they better stand up. That would, to me, was like a mental game. But then to see, yeah, the retaking all the hit again, it was entertaining, it was talent, it was emotion. Like I just can't overstate how incredible it was. And it sucks that somebody has to go home on such an outstanding match like that.
I just feel like there's been so many moments at this World Cup where someone needs to make a meme of Russell Crowe from Gladiator when he's like, "Are you not entertained?" Like for me, that was that moment.
Yeah.
When the French goalkeeper was subbed in for penalties, I'm like, this can go one of two ways. She's either going to save everything
Mhm.
or, you know, I would never wish this upon anyone, but it's very tough to come into a situation where a lot of
So
players
hard.
are warmed up and in that feel of the game, and you're kind of coming in cold. That's why I thought what Mewis did with the U.S. women's national team in her penalty shootout against Sweden, that was her first touch of the game, and she scored that penalty. I'm like, people don't realize how difficult that
Mhm.
is to do. So kudos to this French goalkeeper who was subbed in, because physically, I think that's a tough job because you're not warmed up
Yeah.
from the game. And also mentally, this is going to be your first touch of the game in one of the most crucial,
Yeah.
dramatic
And
moments.
it's riding on you.
Yeah,
The
big
French
time.
win is riding on you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But I want to, so, okay, France was, I believe, ranked fifth by FIFA.
Mhm.
I had them going really far. So,
Mhm.
I, nothing against the Matildas, but just based on what I thought with this French national team and their players like Lassamer, Diani, Wendy Renard, Dali, there's so many
Mhm.
of them that are so good,
Mhm.
especially in their last game, the way that they handled their business. I was like, this is a team that's going to find a way to get it
Mhm.
done. They're so dangerous in the attack. They're very, very good at passing the ball. I think they're technically so good. So I was just like, oh, I would love to see the Matildas go through, but I'm not sure. But
Mhm.
this Matildas team, Australia ranked 10th, you would consider this to be an upset, and did it in front of their home crowd. And we've talked about this entire World Cup on Kickback presented by Betway. Australia, and when New Zealand was also in the World Cup before they were eliminated, their fans are going to act as a 12th
Mhm.
man. And we really saw that. Like, I have some
Mhm.
stats here about viewership and broadcast numbers. There was an estimated average audience during the game of 4.17 million, making it
Incredible.
the number one television event of 2023 so far. There were 3.69 million viewers tuned in to watch the match live on TV broadcast. Further, 472,000 viewers watched the the game on 7 streaming platforms, 7 Plus, I'm assuming that's a streaming platform in Australia, making it the biggest streaming event ever seen in Australia.
Wow.
And these figures don't even capture out of home viewers like clubs, pubs, sporting venues, and the multiple live site broadcasts set up for games. So you saw so many fans in videos on Twitter or whatever social media outlets you have just watching outside, or all of these, massive crowds that were supporting
Mhm.
this Matildas team in that quarterfinal against France. And what the Matildas have done for the country. Like, I've seen so many Australian TikTokers being like,
Mhm.
there are serotonin right now.
Mhm.
We wake up every single day, and until night, all we talk about is the Matildas. And I love this for so many reasons, but
Mhm.
for most of all is just that this is the respect that women's football deserves, and this is what an incredible run by a team like Australia can do for the sport of women's football. And they have been so good. Let's not forget,
Mhm.
Australia was in the group of death.
Mhm.
They came out on the top of group of death. They went into that final game against Canada in third place, and with the way that the Nigeria game played out and how they finished their business against Canada, they topped that group. I have the utmost respect for them.
Mhm.
Then they handled their business against a tough Danish team. Here they are doing it against France in a grueling penalty
Wild.
shootout.
Mhm.
And now you think about that momentum going into England. Oh, I'm rooting so hard for the Matildas and everything they're doing in the nation of Australia, but also on the global spectrum of women's football at
Mhm.
this World Cup.
Yeah, it makes me absolutely speechless just trying to digest the sheer totality of what this Australian team has done. Like you mentioned, Caroline, of course, for women's football, like those viewership numbers are incredible. And a lot of people just, I think, need to realize and let it sink in that this is a game changing moment for women's football. The sport never, ever got these types of viewership or media exposure. Like a decade ago. So
Yeah.
this is fabulous, and we're introducing this fabulous game to so many more people. And wow, I like, again, I would just love to be in Australia right now, just experiencing this and like talk about manifest. Like this is manifesting to a T, and it home crowd advantage is huge, and that would be extremely difficult to play against. So England have their work cut out for them in the semifinals, of course, but also we're talking about keepers, have to give super big ups to Mackenzie Arnold. She's
Huge.
fabulous. She had an outstanding game. Like after the match, I think the French manager, Renard, was just basically saying that Arnold was outstanding and
Yeah.
couldn't beat her. And what a compliment that is, and what a moment for a team like Australia, where of course people knew about them, but now they're on the map. They're beating teams like France. They're going in with momentum against England. It's going to be a huge game. I have no clue what's going to happen.
And I think the next time we talk about Australia after the England game in the semifinals, we'll be talking about more viewership records being
Yeah.
broken, because the last time they broke a record was against Denmark, which was the round of 16, and it was the highest viewed television event of 2023 with 3.6 million viewers. And now
Mhm.
they surpassed that at 4.17 million. So just
Amazing.
what the Matildas are doing and the impact and the influence and how much they have made Australia fall in love with them even
Mhm.
more so and get behind them is so exciting. Yes, I think Arnold was incredible. There's so many players on this team. Rasso has been my MVP personally.
Mhm.
Ford, Catley, Sam Kerr is back. Fowler
So
has
cool.
been extremely dangerous. She should have a couple more goals. I
Mhm.
think there's at least one that she had called back that I think that in one game at the
Yeah.
World Cup that I think should have counted. But you name these star players, right, that we hear about in the media, or that when we watch the game, we're like, oh, I love a Haley Rasso, or
Mhm.
Arnold comes up with another big save. But you have to give this entire team from
Yeah.
top to bottom an immense shout out, because this is a team performance. This is a unit. Like, when you talk about Australia doing what they've done, it doesn't only come down to a Ford or a Sam Kerr now getting back into the lineup and being potentially very dangerous. This isn't a team performance from the first game going now into hopefully the semifinal game against England. And you would have to assume that England is slightly intimidated, not
Mhm.
only by what the Matildas have done on the pitch, but what their fans are about to bring to this semifinal matchup, because You talk about wanting to be in Australia. Oh my goodness, I just can't imagine. And the fans have a big job to do to
Mm-hmm.
support their nation, which I'm sure they're going to do because they
Mm-hmm.
have been doing that. But man, like the fans can play a massive role in
Yep.
intimidating this English side and giving this Australian side the confidence to beat a team that just won the Euros.
Oh my gosh, 100%. And again, if you're not immersed in this atmosphere, if you haven't played the sport yourself in general or at a high level, you know when you're going into a game when you're not the home team, you have considerably less people cheering for you. Doesn't mean you don't have a shot, of course,
Of
but
course, yep.
it plays such a mental toll. And again, I think this whole time, Caroline, we've been talking about the mental aspect of this game as well. This Australian team, they're going in with a mentality, they're going in with the rhythm, they're hearing the fans cheer for them the second they touch the ball, the second they even make a break, down into the final third. That's got to be energizing 100%. And I think this Australia team, of course, they're doing it for themselves, for their teammates, but they are doing it for their country as well. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's something they're fighting for, that a lot of other teams, just by nature of the tournament and where it's located, don't have that extra edge.
I hope that, the Matildas can go all the way because what a Cinderella story that would
Oh,
be
amazing.
to do it in front of their home crowd and to do it in Australia. But the one thing I hope for this team is that as much as it is as like a very important key to their success to have these fans as a 12th man, I hope that they don't feel like it's now a lot of
Yeah.
pressure on their back to perform because
Mhm.
there does come some pressure with that. You're like, okay, now we see these numbers, we see how many people are supporting us. We want to make everyone super proud. And I just hope that they can continue playing this really, really good game that they've been playing, sticking to their game plan, doing what they do best, and finding a way to beat this English team, which I think is absolutely possible. We'll get into our predictions at the end of the show, but I hope that they can find a balance in
Yeah.
being super excited to do this in front of their fans and also not letting the pressure get to them, because I do
Mhm.
think that exists in the space that they're in
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And I think that they have enough experience on this team where they're going to be able to figure it out and balance that out. But that is also a real situation for them as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm. I think they're gonna have to, almost, for lack of a better word, like come down from this moment and just take it one step at a time, one game at a time, prepare for it just like they would do any other match, and almost take the sheer, momentum totality of this game
Yep.
that they're playing and what it really means, kind of out of play for a moment, because if you let it get to your head, we all know how that ends up, and it's never a good thing. But you said all of these teams, they're playing on very good professional teams. They've all been in this high pressure scenario before. But this is different. This is the World Cup on home soil. Like, they probably won't ever experience this again. So I think, they just kind of got to settle their nerves. I mean, I don't envy them. If I was them, my stomach would be butterflies 100% of the time.
I have to apologize to Australian football fans because I love this team. And I've said that since the beginning, but I didn't think that they would be at this, going into the semis, and that
Mhm.
nothing against Australia. I just, going up against a French team with a great coach with these very talented players, I thought France would
Me
pull
too.
this one out.
Mhm.
So I'm not betting against the Matildas anymore. And then another team that I also have been saying,
Mhm.
oh, I think Nigeria is going to get past them. Oh, Colombia is going to make history once again and get past this English squad. Is this English national
Mhm.
team
Oh my
who's
God.
fought through
Mhm.
every single game. We've said many times, this isn't the same team from the Euro. They haven't necessarily been playing, lights out every game, but they handle their business, and I respect that so much about this English women's national team. And here they are beating Colombia, one of
Mhm.
my favorite teams. When I talk about a team and their creativity, their style, their football IQ, their physicality, how individually technically sound they are, but also just their chemistry as a whole, Colombia
Mhm.
stands out in my mind at this Women's World Cup. They are such an offensive threat and such a fun team to watch that I'm like,
Totally.
I actually think England's going to get upset in this game.
Mhm.
And full credit to this English team because they were down a goal, found a way to equalize it right before half, which was a massive, massive goal for them. They were kind of gifted that goal, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, hard fighting team, and then find a way to, Russo wins it for England. This is a team that I feel kind of similar to the Matildas, so I'm so
Yeah.
stuck on my prediction that they can pull it out. They might not have the best day, but they can pull it out. And two very strong teams now going up against each other in the semis, and I'm treating this like a final, in my opinion.
Definitely. And I mean, I actually think Sweden is very similar to England as well, in the sense of, yeah, they might not always play the best football, but they're seemingly beating these fabulous teams due to intense resiliency. Like the Lionesses are so resilient, they do not give up. And there was a moment too, yeah, when Santos scored that first goal, the little chip over Mary Earps for Colombia. I just thought, okay, like England also, that was the first time they were down. And they pulled off their first comeback win of the tournament. So that says a lot to them as well, because they're also not used to being down and coming back. Usually they're really not that good in that kind of situation, because they can let that mental aspect sort of get to them. But huge momentum shift, that Lauren Hemp tap in right before halftime. Huge momentum. And again, I feel horrible that Colombia is exiting on this way too, because I think they're truly one of the most fabulous storylines. They're so energetic, but again, England finding a way to get it done, that says a lot too. And I think some of these storylines are extremely similar now getting to the end of this tournament. We've seen it in Sweden, we've seen it in England, we've seen it in Australia. So truly, I think, Caroline, no matter what we predict, no matter what we think, again, we've talked about this before, it comes down to one moment, one ball, one goal, and it can go either way.
And Julia, who is the player that you mentioned on the English team who I saw your TikTok about her stats being super incredible and she's not getting
Yes.
enough credit this Women's World Cup?
Yeah. So Alex Greenwood,
There
she
you go.
plays, central defender for England and Manchester City. I personally think she's one of these linchpins for the Lionesses, but she's quietly going about her business and nobody really notices her because she's not one of these, I guess, standout players like Alessia Russo, who gets the credit for getting the goals. But Alex Greenwood is leading in passes, standout line passes, pursuing the ball forward, ball control, possession, basically every stat for the Lionesses, as well as forward and attacking passes for the whole entire tournament. But nobody's talking about her, and that plays such a huge role. Greenwood is really aggressive. She's a leader, so it's important to have that, I guess, stabilizing force on the back line. So her and Millie Bright do that really well, I think, together. But I think Greenwood is a little bit more attacking too, in the sense where she's not afraid to carry it up the flanks, passing it up to the midfields and basically trying to get an opportunity about it. But again, I love her because she quietly goes about her business, doesn't demand any tension, but she's there. And without her, I don't know what would have happened, to be honest.
And, football's an interesting sport because naturally stats, we gravitate towards strikers and goals and, golden boots and whatnot. But there are these key instrumental players on every team that do the dirty work, right? And for me, one of my favorite players right now in men's football, Casemiro, he does so much dirty work, especially when he came into this United side when he first left Real Madrid, and how much work he did on the pitch and cleaning things up, and his defensive tackles and just his placement when he doesn't have the ball, how much he had so much effect on the success of this Manchester United team and how they quickly turn things around. At some point they're at the bottom of the Prem, and here comes Casemiro and obviously a couple of other players, and they're able to turn things around. And I just have so much respect for these players who don't necessarily get as much attention, or they're not as much in the limelight, but you see these stats in terms of passing and just how they're able to contribute to the game without necessarily scoring goals. And you have to know that without a player like that, the game could look very, very different. So I'm glad that you mentioned that in your video, because I don't think these players are talked about enough. Like, we're always talking about the big moments, the big goals, and I think that these players who do the dirty work, almost these unsung heroes, deserve a lot of recognition as well.
Definitely. And that's why I try to mention some of these stats. Like I saw on Opta, Alex Greenwood's sort of stat map, or GPS map, if you'd like to say. And it was incredible. Pretty much every single ball she had was passed up forward in order to take the ball to advance it to attack. And I just think when you look at those kinds of moments, you look at the amount of touches, the amount of completed clean passes that she's done in order to make a difference for this Lioness team, you can't help but wonder if she wasn't on the pitch, would England's backline unravel? Who's to say? I don't know. Of course, there's lots of other fabulous players, but I just think it's really important that other people get these call outs. And it's not just England, of course, it's every team too. Yeah. But I just, again, I'm a little bit biased because of our Manchester City connection, but I just think she is, again, a quiet leader out there. And I love those kinds of players. Again, love that you mentioned Casemiro, because it's nice sometimes to get that recognition. And, you know, she's going out there. She's England's workhorse, I personally think, in my opinion. And I think England would be in a lot more trouble if she wasn't there.